everybody. Happy 2021 from Charles and Lori down here at the LA Bread Lab. As the new year opens, something that's on my mind is getting together ultimately with friends and family. Hope we can do that soon. And when that happens, I want to be ready to have a great hamburger and hot dog lunch or dinner. Something that makes a great hamburger or a hot dog for me is more than just the meat and the toppings, it's the bun. So today we're going to talk about how to make an incredible hamburger bun or hot dog roll. Same recipe, just a different way of shaping. We're going to show you how to make them extra soft and how to give them a little more shelf life with a special technique. And we're going to show you how to get that special balance between strength and softness that marks a great hamburger bun. Strong enough to stand up to all the juiciness and all the toppings, and soft enough to not squeeze all that stuff out the side when you take a big old bite. So let's get going. So this looks super complicated. Oh my God, look at all these ingredients. In actuality, there's not as many as you think. There's flour, there's milk, there's water, there's sugar, there's salt, there's instant yeast, and there's olive oil. Now, the reason why we've doubled up the flour and doubled up the milk is that we're actually going to pull the water, some of the milk, and some of the flour aside and do a special step at the beginning that we call a water roux. It's also known in Asian baking as tangjong, which is where we pre-gelatinize the flour with a little bit of the liquid, cook it a little bit ahead of time, and that makes the bread that it ultimately goes into even softer and holds on to moisture so that it can last longer on the shelf life. The way we're going to do that is by getting a non-stick pan like this and cooking it on the stovetop for just a little bit. I want to show you how that gets done. All right, let's take a look at this recipe a little bit more closely so we can get the numbers right. For the tangjong, or the water roux, you're going to need 18 grams of flour, 38 grams of water, and 49 grams of milk. For the dough, you're going to need 163 grams of flour, 4 grams of instant yeast. If you use active dry yeast, add another gram. 3 grams of kosher salt, or any kind of salt, but don't use iodized salt, because the iodine really cuts down on the yeast's activity. 73 grams of milk, 7 grams of oil, I'm using olive oil in this case, and 6 grams of sugar. This recipe is going to make 4 90-gram rolls, so if you want to make more or less, just scale it up or down as you like. All right, so we've got a nice non-stick skillet. We're going to start by taking the flour and just dumping that in there. Make sure you get it all. You know me, I have a little fetish about making sure you get it all. And the first thing I'm going to do is just put the water in. And I'm going to stir it around a little bit to make a paste. The reason for this is whenever you're mixing flour and liquid together, it's really hard to get all the lumps out if you put all the liquid in, because you probably know what happens. The little lumps of flour just sort of bob around like corks in the liquid, and you can't really mix it in. And that's because there's too much liquid. It lets them float around. By putting only some of the liquid in, we can actually make a nice smooth paste. And there we go. No lumps. So now we can add our milk. Get it all. Get out of there, you. And now we're going to turn this on to medium-low. We are not trying to cook the heck out of this. What we're trying to do is bring this up to the gelatinization temperature of starch, which is 188 degrees. That's when the starch in the wheat turns to a nice gel. And when that happens, this will thicken up beautifully and it'll be done. So let's just keep an eye on our heat. We keep scraping the bottom. We scrape down our sides. We don't want any stragglers. We're not trying to brown this. We're just trying to get it to feel like it's the consistency of sort of barely whipped cream. And when it starts to happen, it'll happen really fast. And you'll see it happen. It's just going to take about 2 or 3 minutes. All right. So you can start to see that it's looking a little smeary on the bottom. And if I lift it up, it's starting to look starchy and thick. And look at that. Look how it suddenly changes. And that's enough. We're going to just give it about a few more seconds. I'm going to cut the heat. Let the residual heat in the stove top under the pan continue to cook it for a little bit. And when you see this kind of smooth paste, we don't want to get it too firm. We're going to move it to the side, take it fully off the heat, and we're done. All right, so here we are back in the bread lab. Let's move the mixer over a little bit so we can give you a little space. And we're just going to scrape that right into the bowl. Try to get it all. Remember, because we measure pretty accurately. All right, so now we're going to put in the rest of our milk. Get all in there. And our oil. Use my finger to get the last of it. Don't worry, they are impeccably clean. And whenever I put oil in a ramekin like this, I always measure 1 or 2 grams over, maybe 1 gram, because you see some always sticks. Next, the remainder of our flour, our sugar, our yeast. Now this is kind of a pro trick. Let's put our yeast on one side, and then let's put our salt on the other side. So the salt doesn't lie right on the yeast, because salt can actually put yeast to sleep. And now what we're going to do, lock it and up to speed 2, and we're going to let it come together in a ball. When it's come together in a ball, then we're going to scrape it down. Okay, now you can see it's starting to come into a ball, but there's still a bunch of oil and flour up against the edge of the bowl. So we're just going to take this moment to get in there and knock that stuff off. The oil comes off the stainless steel just fine. All right, try to get everything off your spatula, back into the bowl. And now we're going to put it on speed 2 for 5 minutes. All right, so that's 5 minutes. And let's see what we have. Well, what we have is a really gooey, soft dough. And that's just what we want. Now, as this ferments, as this rises, it's going to get a little bit easier to handle. But for right now, we're going to have to deal with it being so sticky. So, get yourself, again, our handy-dandy Cambro, and we're going to lubricate it a little bit so we can get it back out. So a little bit of oil spray on the inside. You can use baking spray, you can use butter, and then we're just going to scrape this right out. And it's a little bit resistant, and there's always some left on the inside, so just try to get as much out as you can. It's a little frustrating because it's kind of like sticky Play-Doh, this kind of dough. It sticks to everything. Now, how are you going to tell if that rise? That is risen, right? It's all smushed. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our hand wet, and we're going to pack it down. Don't forget to wet your hand, or else it is never coming off your hand. So we're going to just pack it down evenly, as even as you can get it. Right? And what do we got? If you have a smaller container, it's a little easier because it'll fill more of it. But we're going to take our Post-it note, and then we're going to figure out about what's twice. That's about twice. That should take 45 minutes to an hour. When that dough is up to the bottom of that, we'll come back and do the next step. All Okay, so it's been about an hour, and as you can see, the dough has risen and it's up to the bottom of the Post-it note. So it's time to get it out. So what we're going to do is just sort of cut along the outside. Try not to deflate it too much. And we're going to put a little flour on the left side of the board. And we're just going to turn this sticky dough out onto the floured side. So what we want to do first is form this into a nice tight ball. All right. So we're going to stretch it out a little bit. And you can see it's kind of sticky, so put some flour on your hands. And we're going to fold the back side, the right side, the left side, and the top side. That's what we call an envelope fold. I'm going to turn that over and put it over here where there's no flour. And then we're just going to turn it. And what we're wanting to do is have the bottom of that sort of stuck to the board so it winds up and gets nice and tight. See how it's doing that? You can also do this, where you take your hands and sort of cup it on the outside. And nice tight ball. Now, this recipe makes 4 rolls. We're going to do 2 hot dog buns and 2 hamburger rolls. So because it's a nice round ball, it's easy to figure out what 4 pieces are. Okay. So this is the sticky side. It just got cut. So we're going to put that down. And then I'm going to take my hand and make a round space that's a little bit bigger than the ball and roll the ball around. And you see how it winds right up and go quick. Perfect little ball. Pop it on the flour. And let's just do that for the other 3. Now, let's do the hot dog rolls. These you do a little differently. All right, got a little dough that's stuck here. Use your bench scraper. Scrape yourself a nice clean space. So, what do we want here? Here, what we want is a little rectangle because we're going to roll it up. So, stretch it out through the corners. And you get yourself a nice little rectangle. And you take the back edge and flip it over, press it down. Flip it over, pull it back, press it down. Flip it over, pull it back, press it down. And you've rolled yourself up a nice little snake, right? And then just roll that out. Not too long, just about like that. Find the seam, put that down. Now let's go over here and press flat. That's going to rise up to be our hot dog roll. So now we got to let these rise again, and we don't want them to dry out. So what I'm going to do is cover them up. Now I have these lovely sort of professional dough boxes, and I can invert that over this. But if you don't have one of those, and you probably don't, you can take a little flour, just pop a little flour on the top, and drape a tea towel over it. Or you can take one of these trays, flip it upside down. Important thing is we're going to cover that up and leave it there for about 30 minutes. And after about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, what we want to see is that they are sort of doubled and they're big and puffy. Now's the time to preheat that oven to 450. All right, so it's about half hour, 40 minutes now, and it's time to check on our rolls. And that looks great. You can see they've just about doubled in size. And that means they're ready to be baked as soon as we give them a little extra love. This is a simple egg wash. That's 1 egg and 1 or 2 tablespoons of water, beaten frothy. And this is going to do 2 things. One, it's going to give a nice amount of color and shine to our rolls as they bake. Got a little blister there. Some people like to pop that. That's just fine. You don't have to, but I like to. I'm not going to put too much on here. You want to avoid it running onto the pad because it can burn a little bit. The other thing it's going to do is make a little bit of glue to stick some sesame seeds. I like a sesame seed bun. You could use any seeds you like. You could use nigella seeds. You could use pretzel salt. You could use onion flakes. Oh, we got another little blister there. Let's give that a little pull. There we go. And I'm going to use toasted sesame seeds. Let's just, mostly for decoration, a little bit of flavor. Come on. And that's great. So now it's time to take these puppies and get them into that 400-degree oven for just about 10-12 minutes. All right, so about 10-11 minutes have gone by. It's time to check on these guys. Oh, and that's perfect. Look at that. They're beautifully risen and golden brown. And if we check their bottoms, we should see that's perfect. That's just what you want it to look like. So let's get it, whoa, let's get it onto a rack using a tool like an adult. And that's it. Now, something that's important to remember about these is that they're very moist. And you don't want to be cutting into them until they're very completely cooled. They'll taste a little gummy otherwise. And like every hamburger bun and hot dog bun, they're best toasted. So we'll see that in a moment. All right, so let's see how these guys smell and taste. So if you can take a look, we've got a beautiful golden brown color that comes from both the dough itself and the egg wash, and a really nice golden brown bottom with a little bit of a nice light line around the bottom. That shows exactly that it was baked really nicely. It smells so good. And now we're just gonna cut into it with a bread knife. It cuts beautifully. And as we open it up, you can see that it has a beautiful open crumb and it's nice and strong without being tough. These rolls are incredibly versatile. You can actually flavor them. You can put toasted onion powder in them or garlic powder. You can put chili powder in them. You can even take this bun and add a good amount of sugar and make a sweet iced bun. You can take this dough and bake it up like a loaf if you like. It's super versatile and super delicious. What I'm going to do right now is open it up, stick it in the toaster, and grill myself up a burger. Take care. I'm a big fan of the old-fashioned flat-top grill smash burger. To make one, get your ground beef rolled into 2 to 3 ounce balls and your griddle or cast iron pan up to 400 degrees. Then get your cheese all ready because this goes really fast. I like American cheese. Yes, I know, it's not really cheese, but for this, it's perfect. Pop those beef balls onto the griddle and immediately smash them down to about 3/8 of an inch. You might want to oil that spatula so the meat doesn't stick to it. Hit those patties with a big dose of salt. Don't be shy, this isn't health food. And give them a big whack of fresh pepper and let them cook for just 2 minutes. Flip your burgers and immediately top them with the cheese and cook 1 more minute. Pull the burgers off the grill and rest them for 5 minutes covered while you get your buns toasted. Then assemble a gorgeous burger with whatever toppings you like. I'm partial to doubles. All is right with the world. Hey everybody, Charles here at the LA Bread Lab wishing you a happy 2021. Hey everybody, happy new year, happy 2021 from Lori and me down here at the LA Bread. Dude. We're going to show you a special technique that lets them stay extra soft and have a nice long shelf life. You're going to love it and your family will love it. So the family gonna love it. You love it. Family love it. It's good bread. Fuck me. Hey everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Hey. Fuck your red show.